Have you ever found yourself wide awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling and wondering why sleep eludes you? This experience is remarkably common among older adults, and contrary to what many believe, it's not simply a random occurrence or an inevitable consequence of aging. There are specific physiological, psychological, and lifestyle factors that contribute to these early morning awakenings. This article explores 5 significant reasons why older adults tend to wake up around 3 a.m. and what these wake-ups might be telling you about your body, health, and life experience. By understanding these patterns, you may gain not only better sleep but also a deeper appreciation for the natural changes your body undergoes with age. One of the primary reasons older adults wake up in the middle of the night, often around 3 a.m., is the natural decline in melatonin production that accompanies aging. Melatonin, the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycle, plays a crucial role in helping you fall asleep and maintain that state throughout the night. In your younger years, your body likely produced robust amounts of melatonin each night, facilitating long periods of uninterrupted sleep. However, as you age, melatonin production gradually decreases. While you may still fall asleep easily in the evening, by the early morning hours, typically between 2 o'clock and 4 a.m., your melatonin levels may drop too low to sustain deep sleep, causing you to wake up. This awakening isn't due to external factors like noise or dreams but occurs because your brain is naturally shifting toward wakefulness without sufficient melatonin to maintain sleep. This change isn't a sign of failure or illness. It's simply a natural alteration in your internal chemistry. Environmental factors can exacerbate this effect. Even minimal light exposure from street lamps, digital clocks, or hall lights can further suppress melatonin production. As you age, your body becomes increasingly sensitive to these environmental triggers, potentially making early morning awakenings more common. Consider Robert's experience. At 72, he had always considered himself a good sleeper until he began regularly waking at 3:15 a.m., feeling alert rather than tired. Once he understood that this pattern stemmed from normal age-related changes in melatonin production rather than personal failure, he adjusted his habits accordingly. He darkened his bedroom, avoided screens before bedtime, and began taking evening walks to reinforce his natural circadian rhythm. While he still occasionally wakes early, he now works with his body instead of against it. This awareness transforms frustration into compassion and enables wiser choices about nighttime self-care. Understanding that your early awakening might stem from natural chemical changes rather than personal failings allows you to support your sleep more effectively. Another significant factor behind 3 a.m. awakenings is a natural shift in the body's internal clock, a phenomenon known as advanced sleep phase. As we age, our circadian rhythms gradually move forward, causing us to feel sleepy earlier in the evening and wake earlier in the morning. You might notice yourself nodding off during late evening activities or waking without an alarm at dawn, even when you'd prefer to sleep longer. This shift isn't merely habitual, it's deeply rooted in biology and typically becomes more pronounced with age. In younger years, your body's rhythm likely aligned with later bedtimes and wake times that corresponded with sunrise. As this rhythm advances with age, your sleep window naturally shifts forward. Falling asleep at 9 p.m. or earlier means your body has completed its rest cycle by the time 3 a.m. arrives, leaving you wide awake while it's still dark outside. This phenomenon doesn't indicate a problem, it simply means your body operates on a different schedule now. Think of it as a clock that has been gently reset over the years, advancing a little more each season. This natural shift can prove frustrating when it doesn't align with your lifestyle, family routine, or personal preferences. There's also a psychological component to this change. Many older adults live in quieter households or spend more time alone, and this peaceful environment can amplify the body's signals to wind down earlier. Without the constant activity that once delayed bedtime, your system begins its nightly shutdown process sooner. For those no longer working full-time or following strict daily schedules, the absence of external time cues like commutes, meetings, or social gatherings can strengthen this internal shift. Thomas, at 68 and recently retired, exemplifies this pattern. He typically eats dinner at 5:30 p.m., watches television briefly, and falls asleep by 9 p.m. By 3 a.m., his body has completed its rest cycle and is naturally ready to wake. Initially, he mistook this for insomnia, but after learning about advanced sleep phase, he realized his sleep wasn't dysfunctional, it had simply rescheduled itself. Thomas began adjusting his evening routine, staying up slightly later by reading under warm light, taking post-dinner walks, and occasionally calling family members before bed. These small social and sensory cues helped extend his sleep window just enough to shift his wake time closer to morning, resulting in fewer 3 a.m. awakenings and better alignment with his daily life. This natural shift in sleep cycle affects many older adults but remains infrequently discussed. Understanding it can alleviate unnecessary guilt or confusion and offer a more compassionate approach to working with your body rather than fighting against it. A third common reason for 3 a.m. awakenings among older adults involves physical discomfort or underlying health issues that emerge during the quiet nighttime hours. As we age, the likelihood of experiencing chronic conditions or subtle health problems increases, and many of these conditions can disrupt sleep without obvious symptoms. Unlike dramatic disturbances, these interruptions arrive subtly: a sore joint, a full bladder, or a sudden twinge that's sufficient to disrupt your rest in the middle of the night. Arthritis exemplifies this pattern. Lying in the same position for several hours can become uncomfortable. While you might not notice discomfort when first falling asleep, after several hours the accumulated aches may be enough to wake you. Similarly, nighttime acid reflux can disturb sleep, especially if you've eaten dinner late or reclined too soon afterward. Even seemingly minor issues like dry mouth, muscle cramps, or slight temperature changes can trigger awakening during the early morning hours when your body's defenses are naturally more sensitive than in younger years. One of the most common physical causes for nighttime awakening, particularly among older men, is the need to urinate. With age, the bladder becomes less elastic, and the urge to relieve it arises more frequently and urgently. You might not notice the sensation during daytime activities, but at 3 a.m. in a quiet, dark room, it becomes impossible to ignore. Once you've gotten up and moved around, even just to visit the bathroom, your body may have already shifted from deep rest to light alertness, making it difficult to return to sleep. Medications that many older adults take regularly for blood pressure, heart health, or pain management can also affect sleep. These medications often have side effects like increased urination, body temperature changes, or heightened sensitivity to noise or light. You may not immediately recognize the connection between your medicine and sleep pattern until deliberately tracking these habits. Consider Margaret's experience. At 76, she had always been a relatively light sleeper but began waking consistently around 3:30 a.m. over the past year. After months of attributing this to normal aging, she consulted her doctor and discovered that one of her medications was affecting her hydration levels and increasing nighttime bathroom trips. With her doctor's guidance, she adjusted her medication timing, implemented lifestyle changes, and now wakes less frequently, returning to sleep more easily when she does. It's important to remember that physical awakenings don't indicate bodily failure. They're signs that your body continues to function properly by responding, alerting, and adjusting. These signals can guide you toward better care, more informed choices, and deeper trust in your self-awareness. While 3 a.m. awakenings may seem inconvenient, they can serve as gentle reminders to check in with yourself and make adjustments that support better health and more restful sleep. Another powerful but often overlooked reason older adults find themselves awake at 3 a.m. involves long-standing daily habits and routines that gradually reshape internal rhythms. Many older adults naturally begin eating dinner earlier, winding down sooner in the evening, and experiencing less physical activity during the day. These seemingly minor adjustments accumulate over time and signal to the body that night should begin earlier, which inevitably advances wake-up time as well. When your days become quieter, particularly after retirement, your body no longer receives the same external cues it once relied upon, such as commuting, running errands, or engaging in physically or mentally stimulating activities. Without these signals, the sleep-wake cycle may drift forward naturally. A calm, dimly lit evening with minimal stimulation can trigger melatonin production earlier than usual, inviting sleep before you've realized it's only 9 p.m. Once you're asleep earlier, your body simply completes its rest cycle earlier, waking you during pre-dawn hours, often around 3 a.m. There's also a subtle relationship between meal timing and sleep quality. While eating dinner early is generally healthy, it can sometimes lead to overnight blood sugar drops, especially without a light bedtime snack. This dip may not register as hunger but can still rouse you from sleep. Similarly, caffeine consumed even in early afternoon can linger in your system as metabolism slows with age, subtly lightening sleep and increasing susceptibility to awakening at minor disturbances. David's experience illustrates this pattern. At 74 and recently retired, these changes appeared gradually in his life. His days became less structured and his evenings more relaxed. He found himself eating supper at 5 p.m., dozing in his recliner during evening news programs, and retiring before 9 p.m. most nights. Without realizing it, his entire routine had shifted several hours earlier. Soon he began waking around 3 a.m., puzzled by his alertness before dawn. After reflecting on his daily patterns, David began making small adjustments, adding afternoon walks, reading under brighter light during evening hours, and avoiding post-dinner naps. These changes helped extend his natural sleep window slightly later, allowing his body to align more closely with his preferred wake-up time. What's remarkable is how frequently we overlook routine's power. Our bodies crave rhythm, daily patterns that signal the brain when to rest and when to rise. As these signals weaken or shift, the internal body clock may lose orientation, leading to earlier and more fragmented sleep. By recognizing these patterns and making thoughtful adjustments, it's possible to gently guide the body back to a more restorative sleep cycle with fewer disruptions. Sometimes, waking at 3 a.m. relates less to physical factors and more to mental states. As we age, emotional layers once buried beneath daily busyness can surface during quiet nighttime hours. These early morning periods, when the world remains still and distractions few, often become times when unspoken worries, regrets, or longings emerge. You may find yourself awake not from noise or pain but because your mind is quietly processing memories, unresolved thoughts, or subtle anxieties you hadn't realized were present. This restlessness differs from the acute anxiety that might occur in youth. It's quieter and more reflective, perhaps feeling like a soft background hum or a sense that something remains unsettled, even if you can't precisely identify it. When not actively engaged, the mind often revisits old relationships, past decisions, losses experienced, or words left unspoken. Because your body no longer rushes from one responsibility to another, there's space for these thoughts to resonate more strongly. Loneliness can play a significant role in this process. For many older adults, social circles naturally contract over time. Children relocate, friends become less available, and routines change. Daytime hours might be filled with activity and light, but nighttime brings quiet and with it, awareness of emotional gaps. This type of loneliness doesn't always feel heavy. Sometimes it manifests simply as a desire for connection or a faint longing for conversation when the house is silent. Dorothy's experience at 80 and widowed illustrates this pattern. During daylight hours, she keeps occupied tending her garden, communicating with grandchildren, and watching favorite programs. Around 3 a.m., however, she often wakes with thoughts returning to moments shared with her late husband or to concerns she keeps contained during daytime hours. Initially, she worried something was wrong with her sleep, but eventually understood that her early waking wasn't primarily sleep-related, it was her heart seeking acknowledgement. To support herself, Dorothy began keeping a small journal beside her bed. When she wakes, she sometimes records her thoughts, not elaborate reflections, just honest observations. She also established a quiet evening ritual of listening to gentle music or writing brief notes to friends. These small acts of reflection and connection provided emotional outlet, easing her mind and helping her return to sleep more peacefully. The human heart doesn't adhere to strict schedules. It remembers what it needs to remember, asks necessary questions, and sometimes does so at 3 a.m. when external distractions fade. This isn't a flaw but a sign of emotional depth. If you find yourself waking with reflective thoughts, it may indicate you carry wisdom ready for acknowledgement. You've experienced joys and sorrows that shape not only your memories but your very sense of self. Rather than viewing these awakenings as problems requiring solutions, consider approaching them with curiosity and kindness. What might your mind be trying to communicate? What needs expression? What aspect of yourself might benefit from compassion even in darkness? Sometimes the most meaningful rest comes not from ignoring these moments but from honoring them. In doing so, you may discover not only improved sleep but a richer understanding of yourself in this life stage. As we conclude this exploration of early morning awakenings, take a moment to reflect on what resonated most strongly with you. Was it the shift in your internal clock, subtle health changes, or perhaps something deeper, an emotional rhythm that emerges only when the world grows quiet? Each of these 5 reasons offers a different perspective for understanding your 3 a.m. awakenings, and none suggests anything broken or dysfunctional. Instead, they reveal how actively your body and mind continue working, responding, and adapting as you move through this life stage. There's quiet power in understanding what your body communicates, especially during those gentle hours before dawn. Rather than viewing 3 a.m. awakenings as nuisances, you might begin to recognize them as messages, gentle signals encouraging you to listen more attentively to your needs, habits, and heart. You're not alone in this experience and certainly not the only one seeking answers. With insight comes strength, and with strength comes freedom to make small, meaningful changes supporting better rest, greater comfort, and stronger connection to your natural rhythms. If you recognized yourself in any of these patterns, understand that you're not simply aging, you're evolving. With that evolution comes opportunity to rest more intentionally, care for yourself more gently, and greet each morning with greater understanding and peace.
If you found this video valuable, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.